Next, we're going to take a look at how the zero product property works with trig functions. It works exactly the same way that we saw it with quadratic functions. Anytime you are multiplying to equal 0, what you are multiplying by must be 0. So we have two options here. Either this first group equals 0, or this second group does. Remember, we've got multiplication, and multiplication equal to 0 must be multiplying by 0. So we're going to set each set of parentheses equal to 0, so either 2 cosine x plus 1 equals 0, or sine x equals 0. And we'll solve each of these equations. Let's start with the easier one, sine x equals 0. Sine is the y-coordinate when we're on the unit circle. So when you're thinking about where is your y value equal to 0, it would be over here at 1, 0, or over here at negative 1, 0. We're looking at radians, so x equals 0 radians or pi radians. Taking a look at our cosine, subtracting 1 from both sides and dividing by 2. Where on the unit circle is cosine equal to negative 1/2? Again, remember cosine goes backwards. So when we're looking 3, 2, 1 for cosine, that would be at pi over 3 if we were looking at positive 1/2. Since cosine is negative, we're looking in the second quadrant and the third quadrant. So x is actually equal to 2 pi over 3 in the second quadrant and 4 pi over 3 in the third quadrant. Next, we're going to see what happens when the values are not on the unit circle. How do we solve those? So we're going to start again adding that 3 to both sides. So we have where is tangent equal to 8? Well, 8 is not one of our unit circle values. We're looking at degrees, so we make sure our calculator is in degree mode, and we type in the tangent inverse of 8. And our calculator will only give us one answer. For tangent, our calculator will give us the first quadrant answer, which in this case is about 82.9 degrees. And then we need to come up with that other value based on the unit circle where tangent would be 8. So thinking again about where tangent is positive, so we're up here at about 82.9 degrees. And then tangent would also be positive in the third quadrant. We talked about that earlier, that ratio of sine over cosine being negative over negative, which gives us a positive tangent. So thinking about how we are 82.9 degrees away from the x-axis in the first quadrant, we need to be 82.9 degrees away from the x-axis into the third quadrant. So we're going to add that to 180 degrees, and that gives us a total of 262.9 degrees, rounding to the nearest tenth. Last one, let's take a look at how to solve where sine of x equals 2. This time we're in radians, so make sure your calculator is in radian mode and type in sine inverse of 2. And what happens is our calculator gives us an error because thinking about the sine, the basic sine function, remember that wave sine started at the minimum, went up to the maximum. And if you remember what the amplitude was on the parent functions, it was 1. Between 1 and negative 1 was the amplitude. So our sine inverse function is not defined when the ratio is greater than 1 or less than negative 1. The reason for that is, relating it back to SOHCAHTOA, remember sine, if we're looking at theta over here, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the longest side in the triangle. So when you set up that ratio initially of opposite over hypotenuse, your denominator will always be bigger than your numerator, which means the ratio will always be between negative 1 and 1. So here are your 2 you-try questions. Do the best you can. Do them without a calculator, because you will not be allowed to use a calculator on your quiz or your test.